A Minot woman accused of fatally poisoning her boyfriend will remain in custody on a $1 million bond. Investigators saying she gave the man a toxic dose of antifreeze because she thought she would inherit millions of dollars upon his death in what prosecutors are calling an intentional and heinous act. Prosecutors charged 47-year-old Ina Knoyer with double felony murder in the death of 51-year-old Stephen Riley Jr. In a criminal affidavit, friends of Riley's came forward believing Knoyer poisoned Riley, and further tests of his body revealed a toxic amount of a chemical commonly found in antifreeze. Investigators say they believe Knoyer falsely thought she would get half of a $30 million inheritance due to common law marriage, where state recognizes people as married even though they don't have a marriage license. Common law marriages are not recognized in North Dakota. Minot Police Captain Dale Plessis says it was a complex case that required a team effort.
There was quite a bit of effort put in. There were two main detectives that worked on this case, and they did a fantastic job of following up on all the details.
Now, Knoyer will be arraigned on the charge December 7th. She faces the chance of life in prison without parole if she's convicted.